So yeah, very, very warm welcome from me as well. And I'm really excited that we're launching this new series looking at a text called the Diamond Sutra. In a way, we're looking at the text of the Diamond Sutra, but really even more than that, we're looking on Bhante Sangharakshita's commentary on that and what he's drawn out of it. And yeah, I think it might be the first time we've done this in a whole series at London Buddhist Centre. I don't know why. So I thought, why have we never done this before? It's such an important text in the Buddhist world, and it's got a very, very special place in the hearts and minds of those of us in Triratna, because it was very, very important text to Bhante Sangharakshita, our teacher and founder. And he discovered this text when he was just 17 years old, living in South London. And it's not a particularly long sutra, it's sort of medium-sized, but I think it's fair to say it's quite a baffling sutra, and even to the ordinary mind, like mine, even unintelligible at first reading. But Bhante, at 17, when he picked up that sutra, I always imagine him in like Watson's bookshop or something like that, like picking it up. When he picked it up, as soon as he read it, at this tender age of 17, he realised that he was a Buddhist and always had been a Buddhist. Which is, I find quite extraordinary. And he says that it's not so much that it changed the course of his life, but made him realise what the course of his life really was. So yeah, that's why it's got such a special place in our hearts and minds. In a way, you could say it's where Triratna started, although in those days Triratna wasn't even a sort of glimmer of a glimpse in Bhante's eye. But in a certain sense, you could say that's where Triratna started. And it's really interesting because in the sutra itself, it says that anyone who reads and understands this sutra, that means that in a previous life they must have made the bodhisattva vow already. To come across this sutra and to understand it means that they must have made the bodhisattva vow already. That's what it says in the sutra itself, so we'll leave you to ponder that one. So yes, so what? Maybe I'll just say a little bit about what is a sutra. I'm going to say this is the first night, so I'm going to introduce what is a sutra, introduce something sort of generally about the Diamond Sutra. Then we're going to hear just a teeny bit of it and explore what Bhante says about it. That'll all be in the first half, and then we'll have a little 5-minute break, and then we'll come back for questions, and we'll end with a Buddhist ritual. Questions and hopefully answers, I should say, from us. We'll do our best. So yes, so what is a sutra? This is a Mahayana sutra. So that the Mahayana is a sort of later stage in the development of Buddhism. Well, maybe I'll tell you what a sutra isn't. So a sutra isn't just something, it's not that it's something that somebody's thought up. It doesn't sort of emerge from someone's brain, as it were. It doesn't emerge even from someone's subconscious. It's far, far deeper and more profound than that. It's an expression of the enlightened mind itself. Yeah, it's an expression of the enlightened mind itself. So, given that that's what a sutra is, then when we listen to the sutra, when we reflect on the sutra, when we meditate on the sutra, it's like, if we're really open to that, that we're coming in contact with reality itself, with a capital R, because in a sense that's where it's coming from. So usually, for all of us unenlightened beings, one image that's used for unenlightenment is like we've got these veils in front of our eyes, as it were, Usually we talk about two veils. The veil of greed and hatred, all our hankering after stuff, all our trying to push stuff away that distorts everything. Because we're looking through that veil, everything's distorted through the eyes of our greed and hatred, our hankering after it, or our aversion to it. That's the outer veil, and then the inner veil, which is even thicker in a way, is the veil of our delusion. So you could say that from our end, our Dharma work as Buddhists is we're trying to get rid of these veils through all our practice. We're trying to tear away these veils that stop us seeing reality. But then it's as if reality itself is like a light that can shine through these veils. So when we read and listen and meditate and reflect on a sutra such as this, it's as if a great light is shining that's so strong that it can even shine through these veils if we let it. So it's as if the light of reality is shining through. So that's a little bit about sutras in general and, well, their importance. This particular sutra, the Diamond Sutra, comes with a health warning though, because it's diamond's kind of got a sort of jewel sort of sense. So we know diamonds as jewels in the sense of, I don't know, a diamond ring or something like that, something very, very beautiful and attractive and glimmering. But also a diamond's something very sharp and the thing that can cut through anything. And it's in this sense that the diamond in the Diamond Sutra is. So it's not in the sense of something, some shiny bit of bling that we can adorn ourselves with. It's in the sense of cutting through. So it's this sutra, the Diamond Sutra, is the wisdom that cuts like a diamond and smashes like a thunderbolt. The Buddhist word is Vajra, that you might know. So the Vajra is the diamond thunderbolt. So you could say this sutra is the Vajra Sutra, the sutra of the wisdom that cuts like a diamond and smashes like a thunderbolt. So that's why this comes with a health warning. Because if we really engage with this sutra, then we're never going to be the same again. So it always makes me think of apparently one, I don't know who it was, but some famous teacher said something like, if you haven't started practicing the Dharma, it's best not to start. But if you have started, then you're going to have to keep going. So you can say this about this sutra in a sense. If you don't want to change, if you don't want your world to be sort of cut and smashed by this diamond thunderbolt, then maybe best to switch off now. But if you keep listening, then you're going to have to keep coming, at least to the whole of this series and beyond. So what I thought I'd do is we'll try this, see if this works. It would work if we were in a class together, but I think it'll work on YouTube, and even if you're listening later, hopefully it still works, is that I'm going to pause for a moment and ask you, what is it that is being cut through, and what is it that's being smashed? And maybe you can do just one word answers in the chat, one word responses. So what's being cut through and what's being smashed? I've got a list of at least 4 things. But let's hear, as it were, from you first. So just pop some things in the chat. So this wisdom is cutting like a diamond and smashing like a thunderbolt. So what's it cutting and what's it smashing? Let's have some responses. So do pop your responses in the chat, and if you're if you're watching later on, as it were, which is now for you, but I don't know how to say it, then you can just think for a moment. Okay, so cuts old stories of not being good enough, cuts delusion. Good. What else is it? Cutting and smashing. Cutting noise of every day. I wonder what that one means. Cutting ignorance, cutting ourself. Lots of, delusion. I want, so desires. So a lot of very, very strong voice for it's cutting through delusion, so that's good. Yeah. What else? Our self-stories, yeah. Anything else? Our inner dialogue, the ego. We'll see what we mean by that. Okay, good. Time for a couple more. Our fixed ideas, good. So that's a new one. Cutting the ego, smashing through the sense of smashing through the world that we think is real, craving what we perceive as real. Yeah, good. Great. Okay, very, very good. So cutting through suffering, that's interesting, yeah. So dukkha is another word for suffering. Loserville, yeah, cutting through Loserville, good, that's very good. Great. Okay, so I think between us all, we've covered most of the things that I had. Cutting through any certainty, good, Tanya, and attachment. Okay, so let's, that's very good, everyone. So the four categories I written down, which I took straight from Bhante, actually, actually maybe could you just hold up that book a minute, maybe you can hold it far forward with your nice long arms to the camera. So everything is, and lift it up a little bit, I'm not supposed to touch it. So everything I'm saying is coming from Bhante's book, Wisdom Beyond Words. So Bhante talks about the cutting through as cutting through all our thoughts and concepts about reality itself. So I think maybe we had that in Amy saying what we perceive as real, but even what we think reality is. So everything all our preconceived ideas, we can't hear anymore. Oh, can other people hear? Maybe say if you can hear. Can you hear? Can other people hear? Uh-oh. I think the sound might have gone. Okay. So we can't hear. So maybe could you, Britta, could you type something about, can you say if you can hear? Can you hear? Somebody's saying yes. Can you hear? Can you hear us still? Okay, Marianne can hear. Oh, good. Okay, still hear you. Okay, so sorry about that, Roy, that you can't hear. Okay, good, great. So good. So most people can hear, so that's good. So it's always so nerve-wracking on YouTube, isn't it? So what's being cut through is all our thoughts and concepts about reality. So everything we think about the Dharma, this sutra is saying actually whatever you thought, even about the Dharma itself, that's all going to be cut away. It's like we don't know. What's being smashed is all our psychological conditioning. So yes, all those voices, as many people said, about all those I'm not good enough, all the Loserville, all those stories we've got about ourselves, also all those stories we've got about other people, all our prejudices are all being smashed through by this wisdom. Also, yes, all our negative emotions, so quite a few people said craving, but also all our jealousy, all our fear, all our anxiety is being shattered. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? It's quite strong. we're sort of used to the language of kindness. That's in a way being used more and more, and it's good. It's not that the language of kindness is bad. Metta is a very good thing, but I've even heard creeping in recently that we have to be kind not just to ourselves, but even our negative emotions. Have you heard that? People say, oh, be kind to your anger, be kind to your jealousy, be kind to everything. I don't think the Buddha ever said that. I sort of hate to tell you in a way, but I don't think the Buddha ever told us to be kind to our anger and be kind to our fear and be kind to our jealousy. So this it smashes through. It smashes through all our negative emotions and shatters them. And finally, it cuts through everything that stops us seeing reality with a capital R. So it cuts through. It cuts through ourselves, as some of you have said. Reality is there all the time and pressing in on us, but we ourselves are a sort of a walking, talking defense mechanism against reality. So this wisdom that cuts through us. It cuts through the defended us, yeah? So you can see that it comes with a health warning, can't you? Because it's smashing through all our thoughts and concepts about reality, all our psychological conditionings and prejudices, all our negative emotions such as jealousy, fear, craving, anxiety, and it cuts through everything that stops us seeing reality face to face, and that means it's cutting through our very selves, yeah? So, are we ready? That's my question to you. Well, actually, it's not my question. That's the Diamond Sutra's question. Are we ready? And we're probably not. We're probably not ready for this. Humankind, as T.S. Eliot says, can't bear very much reality. And T.S. Eliot meant reality with a capital R. He didn't mean the ordinary small R reality of humdrum life. He meant the bright light of reality. We're not really ready for it. We probably got to take it in a small dose at a time. I often think of that story from Greek mythology of Semele. She's been seduced by Jupiter. And Jupiter said, I'll give you anything you want. And Juno, who's the wife, the goddess wife of Jupiter, is very jealous and anyway tricks Semele and says to Semele, ask Jupiter to show you himself in his brightest light. And Semele unfortunately falls for it, so she says to Jupiter, oh, show me yourself in your brightest light. And Jupiter goes, oh no, I wish you hadn't asked me that. But he can't refuse, and so he has to do it, and he tries to dim the light, but even when he dims the light of himself, she just gets burnt to a frazzle, basically. They're very strong, these Greek myths. So it's a bit like that. If we really were to see reality face to face, it would be too much. We'd be burned. So we're not really ready for it. But we can at least start to take it in small doses. Bhante says it's like salt. We can't have an exclusive diet of reality, but we can at least be open to a taste of it. So anyway, I hope I haven't scared anyone off. No, it looks like everybody's still here. That's good. So this sutra comes with a health warning. So another reason, Bhante says something that's very, very interesting. He says that we might reject it for that reason. We might reject this sutra because it's just too strong for us, although it looks like we're all still here. But interesting enough, Bhante says we might also reject this Diamond Sutra because it doesn't seem relevant to us, it doesn't seem useful to us. And I thought that's very, very interesting. We've sort of got a mania for things being useful. It's I notice it's usually on the back of Buddhist books these days. It usually says, the blurb usually says something like, this Buddhist book is very, very good, and what's good about it is we can really apply it to our lives here and now. That's often used as a kind of selling point to sell a Dharma book. Probably the Diamond Sutra is not going to have that. The Diamond Sutra is not going to have that as its blurb. It's not going to have that because it's at first glance it doesn't seem very relevant to us. And again, Bhante says it's all very well to expect Buddhism to be meaningful to where we are here and now, but actually where is here and when is now? In other words, is all we think about, do we think our conditioned existence is all there is? So again, that's quite provocative, isn't it? He's saying there needs to be some element of the Dharma that's actually not relevant to our spiritual development at all, which is quite shocking, isn't it? Yeah, as I say, because we do seem to have a sort of mania almost, and we want it to apply to us, in our 21st century modern life. If it doesn't apply to us in our vegan eating, eco-over, shopping sort of life, then we're going to dismiss it. We want it to be applicable to our lifestyle here and now. But yeah, there needs to be, according to Bhante, some element of the Dharma that's not relevant to our life, that's not even relevant to our spiritual development at all. In a way, it takes something quite irrelevant to transcend conditions. And paradoxically, then it becomes completely relevant. Only when it's completely irrelevant does it become really relevant. Otherwise, do you see, we're just trying to fit it into what we think is good for us. It's very, very easy to do that. We want the Dharma to fit into our idea of what the Dharma should be. That's what I mean when I say we want it to fit into our sort of goodly life, our modern life, where, we're all what? We're all kind of, if we're not careful, we're sort of lifestyle Buddhists, just as we're lifestyle vegans, just as we're lifestyle, let's put everything in the right recycling bin. I'm not trying to say those aren't good things. It's terrible, isn't it? You've got to be very careful. I'm not trying to say those aren't good things. But it all too easily, we try and make the Dharma itself something that we can just put in the right container, just as we put our recycling in the right container or something. Then we think, we've done it. Then we think we know what the Dharma is, rather than allowing the Dharma to tell us what it is. We've got a preconceived idea of what it is. We want it to fit in, and basically we want it, if we're not careful, to be something that we can just add into our life, that we don't need to change our life very much, that we can just fit into our idea of what a sort of 21st century modern good life is, but it's our life, yeah? So we need that's why Bhante is saying that we need something that's quite irrelevant to all that, that completely transcends that, to sort of provoke us into something new, to lift us out of the transactional. The closest thing that we probably got to that in our sort of life as we recognise is the arts, I think. Or beauty itself. Is that sort of beauty itself shocks us out of the transactional. And the arts are trying to do that. Elsewhere in his commentary, Banti says, sort of on the same theme, he says, no one ever dropped dead from lack of art. He says it's completely unnecessary, and that's why it's completely necessary. Yeah, so the same sort of idea. We're not going to drop dead from lack of it. We're not going to drop dead from lack of the Diamond Sutra. You've probably all lived your life quite happily now without ever encountering the Diamond Sutra. Probably most of you. I'm hazard a guess, but you might prove me wrong. But that's why it's so important, yeah? That's why it's so important, because it's, in a way, because it's unnecessary, in a way, because even it's irrelevant. We need that. We need to be lifted out of the transactional. In a way, all truly positive action is lifted out of the transactional. Even on a more level that we can understand. Every time we do something generous without expecting anything back, then we lift it out of the transactional. Every time we love when there's no reason to love, every time we forgive when it seems crazy to forgive, then we lift it out of the transactional. And I think really only then does the religious life really begin, when we allow ourselves to be lifted out of the transactional. So in the Diamond Sutra is doing just that. It's the Dharma, it's definitely the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, but it's not the Dharma as we know it, or as we think we know it, because it's not at all about ethics, it's not at all about meditation. It's not about contemplating impermanence. All these things we teach you week after week. It's actually not about any of them. So it's not the Dharma as we know it. So that's a little bit by way of introduction to the Diamond Sutra in general. It's coming with a health warning, and it's not at all the Dharma as we know it. And it's, in a sense, it can't even claim to be relevant to our 21st century modern life. In fact, it's completely irrelevant to that, but that's why it's so important. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hear a little bit from the very, very beginning of the sutra, and I'm going to ask Sangajit to just read us the very first few sentences. So, and if you're hearing this, it probably means that you've made the Bodhisattva vow in a previous life. So let's listen.
Thus have I heard at one time, the Lord dwelt at Sravasti in the Jeta Grove, in the garden of Anathapindika, together with a large gathering of monks, consisting of 1,250 monks, and with many bodhisattvas, great beings. Early in the morning, the Lord dressed, put on his cloak, took his bowl, and entered the great city of Sravasti to collect alms. When he had eaten and returned from his round, the Lord put away his bowl and cloak, washed his feet, and sat down on the seat arranged for him, crossing his legs, holding his body upright, and mindfully fixing his attention in front of him.
Thank you. So that's the beginning of the sutra, and it's strangely ordinary, and that's the interesting thing about it. If you've heard of any Mahayana sutras, maybe even you've just been on the retreat of the White Lotus Sutra, they are not usually so ordinary. This reads very much like a text from early Buddhism of the Buddha with his disciples sitting around going begging for alms. Usually Mahayana sutras are full of gods and goddesses and hundreds and thousands of celestial beings, jewel trees, everything, the works as it were. And the Buddha's usually preaching from a high mountain, and as I say, preaching not just to ordinary folk, but to all of these gods and other unseen beings. Whereas this is strangely ordinary. But very grateful again to Bhante in his commentary, because he says that this ordinariness has itself got something to say. And what it's saying is that reality has to be experienced in the midst of our ordinary life, because there's nowhere else that it can be experienced. There's nowhere else that it can be experienced. It's in our life, but it's like what this is saying is it's like we've got to learn to see our life, experience our life with new eyes. So it's our ordinary life, but seen in a new way. And two things came to mind that I've been reflecting on this week when I was thinking about this. One thing is somebody in my community, Ariane, I don't know if you're watching Ariane, but Ariane from my community, this week she got new glasses. She got her first pair of glasses. She never had glasses before. She's experiencing what a lot of people have been experiencing because of so much time on Zoom. It's kind of messed around with her eyesight. And gradually over this year, she started getting headaches, and she started wondering, I wonder if it's something to do with my eyesight. And she went to the opticians, and sure enough, she needed some glasses. And after the first time she went out to the park with her glasses, she came back and she was totally bowled over. She said, everything's really, it's like shiny, and it's like three-dimensional. And basically she just got used to seeing the world. I know this myself as a spectacle wearer. If you're not too badly short-sighted, you can kind of get by, but everything's just a bit flat and not very defined, so it's a bit dull. And then you put your glasses on and suddenly, I can see Britta, and she's all defined and three-dimensional. And if I go out into Victoria Park, I see the blossoms. And it's a very simple metaphor, but do you see, it's not like Victoria Park has actually changed. It always was there. But it's like from Ariane's point of view, it was new. It suddenly became three-dimensional. An extra dimension and a more definition was added. So I think this is a sort of metaphor for the new eyes with which we can start to see reality. It's like at least another dimension will be added, a multi-dimension will be added. That's a very simple metaphor. But then something deeper happened this week. My friend was telling me about her friend who's very seriously ill at the moment, and very seriously ill indeed. And she hasn't been able to get out very much, but she was able to get out and also was able to see the park. And she said it's just so beautiful, and there was a poignancy in the beauty because she knows that she's probably going to have to let go of worldly delights soon. So she was saying it's so beautiful, I don't want to have to say goodbye to it. And the poignancy is, of course, that it's so beautiful to her because she knows that she might be seeing it for one of her last times. And I thought, that's a deeper seeing with different eyes, isn't it? If we really knew, if we really were aware of the impermanence before us, we would see the blossoms as the most beautiful blossoms we'd ever seen. I was thinking actually it would be the same if we recovered after a long illness. Maybe we thought we were going to die and we were saved, or we recovered. What I now see as ordinary, I'd see as so beautiful because I thought I was never going to see it again. So both of those, the kind of simple metaphor with the spectacles, but also the deeper seeing, when we're really in touch with the fragility, show us that actually it's the same park, it's the same blossoms, but we can see it without the veils. We can see it without the veils. So nowhere else will we see reality apart from in this life. So this scene, the beginning of the sutra, being so ordinary, even that has a message for us, that it's in the midst of our ordinary life, whether, difficult, whether wildly ecstatic, or just a bit humdrum and boring, that's where we're going to see reality, experience reality. Then it's interesting because the Buddha establishes mindfulness before him. In other words, he meditates. So why does a Buddha meditate? We might ask. We think of meditation as something we do, we may think of this as meditation as something we do to gain enlightenment, as a practice in order to gain enlightenment. But here we have the Buddha, who is enlightened, still meditating. So why is that? He doesn't have to practice. He doesn't have to practice meditation. He doesn't have to practice anything at all. So again, I think something quite interesting and very, very profound to be seen here. And what's to be seen is what we think of as practice, whether that's meditation, whether that's our ethical practice, is natural to a Buddha, is just the way a Buddha would naturally act. So the Buddha meditates just as an expression, an unself-conscious expression of who he is. Just the same as when a Buddha's being kind, we experience it as kindness, we experience it as compassion. But from the point of view of the Buddha, it's just a natural expression of his being. It's just a natural expression of that enlightened being's being. I wish I could have you here so you can nod if you understand, because I hope I'm making that clear, because it's very, very important. It's just the nature of a Buddha to be kind. It's just the nature of the Buddha to establish mindfulness before them. We will experience glimpses of that when someone else experiences us being kind or helpful or generous. But from our point of view, we were just being ourselves. I find this quite often when I'm talking to someone about becoming a mitra. I'm one of the mitra conveners here at the London Buddhist Centre, and even after many years of doing this, it's still one of my strongest delights is talking to someone when they ask to become a mitra or when they ask for ordination. And usually at the end of that conversation, the person thanks me and says, "Thanks for giving me your time." Quite often people say that to me, and I always get a little a little jolt of surprise when people say that, because from my point of view, especially in that conversation, I literally don't feel like I've given anything. I literally feel that it's been a complete joy and privilege to have that conversation. So to me, that's a little sort of taste of what the Buddha would experience all the time. Other people would experience the Buddha's kindness, compassion, wisdom, but from the Buddha's point of view, the Buddha is just being himself. And yes, as they experience that. So it's natural, it's natural to the Buddha. So if the Buddha, on getting to enlightenment, thought, oh, I've done it now, I've got there, I can sort of retire now, as it were. Do you see how that would be a sort of dualistic way of thinking? It'd be thinking, well, then, when I wasn't enlightened, I was doing this. Now I'm enlightened, I don't need to do it anymore. But actually, what happens on that journey, the sort of path becomes the fruit. So the meditation starts off as the path, but it becomes the fruit. It stops becoming something you do to become enlightened, and it becomes the fruit of enlightenment. So it's not dualistic. From our point of view, it's still dualistic. We think, oh yeah, I've got to do all this stuff to become enlightened. I've got to meditate, I've got to practice ethics and so on. We're still in that dualistic framework, but what happened is gradually, that dualistic framework will become less and less dual until it's not dual at all. The path has become the fruit. Enlightenment, we'll realise, isn't a sort of spiritual retirement home. It isn't somewhere where we settle down. It's just the sort of furthest point on the horizon that we can see. Now, when we get there, as it were, we'll realise it's not the end. There's just more and more unfolding. It's the end in one sense, in that it's the end forever of greed, hate and delusion, but it's not the sense it's not the end in the sense of the end of creativity. Creativity just keeps unfolding in more and more subtle ways, So this simple act of the Buddha meditating is actually telling us quite a lot. It's telling us that enlightenment isn't an end point. That there's just continual unfolding after that, and that enlightenment, that meditation, that generosity, that kindness is just the natural expression of a Buddha. It's something we have to practice, but it's just how an enlightened being would naturally be. Good, so let's hear just one more section before tea, or before the little break.
At that time, the Venerable Subhuti came to that assembly and sat down. Then he rose from his seat, put his upper robe over one shoulder, placed his right knee on the ground, bent forth his folded hands towards the Lord, and said to the Lord, "It is wonderful, O Lord, it is exceedingly wonderful. O well gone, how much the Bodhisattvas, the great beings, have been helped with the greatest help by the Tathagata, the Arhat, the fully enlightened one. It is wonderful, O Lord, how much the Bodhisattvas, the great beings, have favoured with the highest favour by the Tathagata, the Arhat, and the fully enlightened one."
Thank you. Thank you. So just a few things to draw out there, although we could sort of talk about it all day, really. So here you've got Subhuti, the disciple Subhuti, and the first thing we'll notice is that he is receptive. So this is the sort of primary quality of a disciple, is receptivity. And that's something we can sort of train ourselves in. It's something we can allow ourselves to, it's a sort of faculty, we can allow it to be drawn out of us more and more. We really won't get anywhere in our Dharma lives if we don't cultivate receptivity. And the second thing is gratitude. So the disciple is grateful. And again, this is such a sort of primary quality. It's a sort of saving quality, I often think. If somebody's got gratitude, I'll almost forgive them for anything else that they might do. You know, they can be, I don't know, they can be hot-tempered, they can be, you know, go off in a strop from time to time. But if they retain gratitude, it's such a saving grace in anyone. I've always got time for someone who expresses gratitude. It's such an important quality, and as I say, such a saving quality. And again, it's something we can cultivate and practice expressing. We can be terribly sort of shy and reserved about expressing gratitude, but it's really worth cultivating as a quality. And the more we express it, the more it will grow. These two, receptivity and gratitude, they're absolute prerequisites for any sort of Dharma life. They'll take us a long way. And then the last thing I want to draw out is how the disciple Subhuti talks about the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas favouring the disciple. So it's very, very interesting, this notion of favouring, because it sort of suggests that there's something that is unearned that happens, sort of not deserved under the law of karma. Another whole dimension coming into being. It's not deserved, it's sort of not undeserved either. It's like a whole different paradigm comes into being. It's sort of, I suppose, it's like the blessing of the Buddhas on us. It's like nothing conditioned can deserve the unconditioned. All we can do is be open to something new coming into being, that in a way we haven't earned. No matter how good we are, no matter how much we meditate, no matter how much we study, we can't earn the Dharma. We can't, in a sense, earn the blessings of the Buddha. It's not like sort of taking an apple to the teacher or something like that and expecting it. We can't earn it, which is quite a thing, really, isn't it? Is another metaphor that's often used is it's like lightning. We can put up the lightning conductor, but we can't force the lightning down out of the sky. At the same time, it is quite important that we put up the lightning conductor, and you could say that's where our practice comes in. But so we can't earn it, but we can be ready for it and be open to it. Again, the best analogy I can think of is the muse. You know, in our tradition, our more modern tradition, we might talk about the muse that might visit the poet or might visit the artist on occasion, and then our job is to sort of get ourselves out of the way and allow the muse to descend. But we can't really earn the muse. We can make ourselves more susceptible to the muse, but we can't earn it. So, and in the same way, we can't earn the unconditioned. But our job is to be open to it. So what in this little part of the reading at the very beginning of the sutra, the disciple Subhuti is showing us how to approach the Diamond Sutra, and how we approach it is with a sense of receptivity, of gratitude, and of wonder at the gift of the Dharma. And I thought that's what I leave this little talk on, in encouraging us to have a sense of wonder. Enlightenment itself, one teacher really recently said, we could consider as a continual state of wonder. And that's something we can cultivate. here and now in our ordinary lives, this sense of wonder for the nature around us, for our friendships with each other, and for the Dharma itself. So I hope that's given you more than a taste of what's in store with this unfolding of the Diamond Sutra over the next 8 weeks. We're going to pause there. I'm going to hand back to Sangajit just for a few minutes, and then we'll have a 5-minute break, and then there'll be a chance for some interaction with questions and hopefully responses from us. So, but you've got a few little announcements first, haven't you?
Yeah. Thank you. So thanks again, Subhadramati. It was just, it's just so interesting to sort of take, all the common things that you think of, that whole transactional way of being that we are in the world, and then you bring it into the Dharma so sort of unthoughtfully, but how else would you do it? And then to have it all turned on its head like that, and all these different examples is so helpful, and just I could just feel myself all stirred up inside as you talked, which is really good. And I hope you all felt the same out there, wherever you're watching. I just before we go to the break, I've got a couple of quick announcements to make about other things that are happening at the London Buddhist Centre. So there's actually a course coming up called The Journey and the Guide. And this is, I think it's being, you're going to get a link to this in the chat box in a second. And the Journey and the Guide is an 8-week course run at the London Buddhist Centre, where each week you'll be part of a whole group of people going on a sort of adventure of sorts. I just finished doing a very similar course called Life with Full Attention, and we had about 350 people, and it's very interactive, and there'll be lots of teaching within the course, but there'll also be lots of practical things that you can do to bring the Dharma alive in your life, in all the little areas of your life that you hadn't perhaps thought you could practice in. But there's lots of them. Virtually every moment there's something you can do to, just to sort of approach enlightenment, or try and get a glimpse of enlightenment as a real thing in the world. So the link is going up now. You can have a look at that course and do book on. It'll certainly give you some fantastic conditions in which you can really take your understanding of Buddhism further and sort of more deeper and more sort of dispersed through your life. So do check that out. And just before we go to the break, I just want to encourage everyone who's benefiting from things like this evening where we're hearing about the Diamond Sutra, and I sit here and I think of that sort of lineage of the Diamond Sutra. Just it sort of goes back and back into sort of some sort of mysterious process, really. I mean, how that even came into being, and then how it got translated, and then how it got understood by people over so many centuries, and then even in this modern time, it's still so mysterious. But we have Bhante sort of giving us a way in, and then Subhadramati giving us a further way in, and there's always this sort of unfoldment. You feel like things are always sort of just flowering with this when you sort of engage with these type of things, and you can just easily step into that yourself. You can easily be part of that flowering and that wonder of Buddhist wisdom just going down through generations. You can give your time, you can give your energy, you can give your support to the London Buddhist Centre. Please give donations to the London Buddhist Centre, not for any transactional purpose, just for the being part of this strange unfoldment that just seems to go through time in all these various different ways that don't get you anything. You don't then cure all the sicknesses of the world, or feed the starving masses. It's just a sort of unfoldment of a higher level of consciousness that just seems to want to be unfolded of its own accord. And you can just be part of that, and that will just go on long after we're here, for who knows. So do give, and do please make a donation for this evening and ongoing into the future. And let's see where that all ends up.